So me and Andy were up about 5 in the next morning, and we'd done all the checks the previous day and the day before when Andy was down at his hangar with Jeff. He'd taken the plane up a couple of times. He'd made sure that everything was working well. There was no dramas, no issues. Jeff had given the plane a service, and me and Andy sat downstairs having a cup of coffee, and he was telling me that it had been about a year or so since he had been to Bermuda, and he was looking forward to going back again. He seemed to be in a little bit better spirits, you know, considering how heavy and how hard, you know, Tom's death had hit him. And it had affected me greatly as well, because even though I'd only been at Andy's house just over probably about 6 weeks, it is very difficult to see somebody, you know, grieve and, you know, to just not eat and kind of go down a rabbit hole that is it's not very healthy. But unfortunately, it's all part of life. You know, we all have a time limit, and we all have a ticket that eventually is going to be punched. And so Andy was in better spirits. You know, he was joking a little bit, which he didn't usually do, and you know, he actually allowed Kitty to sit on his knee on the couch, which was really good. I don't know if he'd done that in Tom's room when he used to go in and talk to Tom, but it was nice to see. So Kitty, she was all set to go in a little cage. Andy reckoned it's going to take about 5.5, 6 hours, or just over 6 hours to get to Bermuda, because there was going to be a little bit of a headwind. So he'd prepared all these calculations. So we had a couple of cups of coffee. We were just sitting there. Andy had his flight book and everything. He was going to allow me to fly today. He was going to allow me to take off, and he was going to allow me to get some air hours just by basically flying the plane manually, not on autopilot, which I was looking forward to, because it is a different sensation when a computer is flying the plane. So you feel a bit more pressure on you when everything's kind of manual. So yeah, I was looking forward to that. So it was good to talk to Gary the night before. It was good to hear the gossip. Wasn't too pleased that Gary had decided to point out that he had dated Fiona previously. I don't know what his point to that was, but hey ho, that's just how it goes. So, coffee drunk, house checked, and Kitty was in her little cage, her little kitty cage, and we headed to Miami Airport. So at that time in the morning, which was roughly 5:45 by the time that we left, there wasn't very much traffic. And because it was now in September, everything was still a little bit dark, and you know, the lights were on, and yeah, it was a much easier, a much quieter drive. So once we had gotten to Miami, Jeff was already there. Jeff actually slept in the hangar. Jeff had a room that was an old office, and he had just converted it basically into living quarters. Especially for the days that Andy was preparing to leave, Jeff would usually stay overnight, even though he had a house and a girlfriend in the city. Jeff did spend 1 or 2 nights, or you know, 1 or 2 days at the hangar, just to make sure that everything was rocking and rolling. And Jeff was a lovely guy, so we were prepared to go. So got to the hangar. It had started to rain a little bit, nothing too much, just a bit of drizzle. Andy went in, shook hands with Jeff. I went in, shook hands with Jeff, said good morning, had a cup of coffee with Jeff. Andy went over to Miami ground to the tower, and Andy had filed a flight plan. And the reason he did file a flight plan was because the weather was probably going to be a little bit grey. So it might come to the point where it would be IFR, which was instrument flight reading, rather than VFR, which was visual, where you could see everything clear. So Andy had filed a flight plan for that, let them know that there was 2 souls on board plus a kit, and that we'd be going to Bermuda. So Andy went over, took care of that. I was chatting away to Jeff, Jeff was asking me how the shooting was going. I told him that me and Andy would be going over to the shooting range on the way back, and that Jeff was going to come along as well, so that was good. So I had managed to pack my flight manual for when I was going to be up in the air. I didn't know if Andy was going to let me fly the whole way, or just for a couple of hours, just to see if I could get my bearings on the aircraft without him really telling me anything. So, and I'd flown the plane a few times now, so I was quite comfortable. So, I was looking forward to that. Anyway, all was said and done. Andy came back and it was ready to rock and roll. Andy, Jeff and I took a walk around the aircraft. Jeff had already put it outside. Usually it would go into the hangar at night time. Jeff had put it outside, and he did his walk around just to be sure that he was happy with everything. And then Andy and I did a walk around. We did all our safety checks, pitot tubes, ailerons, servo tabs, everything that we needed to do. The outer skin, that the fuel caps were locked down, that the tires were good, all that type of stuff. The props were good. There was no dents, scrapes, or dings in them. And so we were looking forward to that. And so yeah, we were good to go. So climbed in, settled in, strapped in, put Kitty in the back and tied her little cage down so it wouldn't rock and roll. And she was quite happy on her little blanket with her little kitty. I got her a little cat, a little toy, and she just seemed to like that being with her. Anyway, that was a story. So before we knew it, Andy had contacted the tower. I had given the identification there on the tail, the number, and we got permission to taxi to runway right 9. So that's where we went. Andy was happy enough. He let me go. We gave her some throttle, and before we knew it, then I was pulling back on the yoke, and we were airborne. Andy kept his hands close and kept his feet also on the rudders, and yeah, he was happy enough. So before we knew it, tower came over and told us to climb to 6,000 feet, maintain 6,000 feet for about an hour, and then we'd know where we're going to go from then. So I flew for about 2 hours. Andy then put it on autopilot and said that he was going to take a nap, and the sky was blue with a few clouds, but nothing too dangerous, no cumulus nimbus, nothing that was, looked like storm clouds or anything like that. And he just set the GPS and away we went. He calculated that the flight time would be around 6 hours, just over 6 hours, possibly a bit longer due to the headwind. So anyway, that was the plan. So once she was on autopilot, Andy kind of curled up in his usual ball, took his headphones off, and just leaned back and started to snore. For the first 30 minutes, I just kept my eyes out, kept checking. Nothing was coming over the headphones. There was nothing to look out for, no danger, but it was just, that you checked up, right, and down into the sides for any other aircraft coming. So it was going to be a nice, easy, quiet flight. I took out my manual and I just started to read a little bit, just to focus in on a bit more knowledge, and that was it. I checked Kitty in the back, and she was just sound asleep. She was just curled up, and so she was set for the flight as well. So I just read my manual. Andy had told me to wake him in about 2 hours. I set my watch, and we just went from there. So that was it. It was an uneventful flight. Everything was nice and blue. We cleared out into the ocean, and that was us. That was us set for Bermuda, and I was really looking forward to it. That was it. As I say, uneventful, quite boring. Andy snored like a fucking trooper. I could hear him snoring away, and we just went from there. 2 hours passed very quickly. I gave Andy a nudge. Andy woke up, put his headset on, and I just continued to read the manual.